The back door of my diner opened and a boy walked in out of the rain, not through the front like a customer, through the back the way delivery men come past the dumpsters and the grease trap. He was maybe 15, 16, soaked through. His jacket was one of those thin hooded things that does nothing against real weather. He had a garbage bag over his shoulder, the kind people use when they don't have luggage. He looked at me and didn't run. That was the first thing I noticed. Most kids caught trespassing bolt. He just stood there dripping on my kitchen floor, holding that garbage bag with both hands like it was the most important thing he owned. "I'm sorry," he said. The door was unlocked. I saw the light. I looked at him for a long moment. "I'm Loretta. I've run May's Diner for 31 years. I've seen hungry people. I've seen scared people. I know the difference between someone who wants to steal from you and someone who just needs to get out of the rain. This boy was the second kind. You hungry?" I asked. He nodded, tried not to look too desperate about it. "Sit down," I said. "I'll fix you a plate." His name was Owen, 17 years old. He told me that much before he'd finished half his eggs. He ate fast the way people do when they're not sure if the food's going to disappear. I refilled his coffee without asking. "Where are you coming from?" I said. He looked at the table. "The highway. You hitchhiking?" "I've been staying at the truck stop past exit 40, doing odd jobs. But they told me to clear out this morning." "Why?" He shrugged one shoulder. "Guy didn't like me. Said I was loitering." I set the coffee pot down. "Where are your parents?" He was quiet for a moment. "My mom passed away last winter." "I'm sorry, my dad's not around." "Which means what exactly?" Another shrug. "Means he's not around." "What about family? Grandparents, aunts, uncles?" "No one. I aged out of foster care in March." Aged out. He said it like it was a weather report, like it was just something that happened to you and you moved on. "How long have you been on your own?" He counted something in his head. "About 7 months." 7 months. 17 years old. And he'd found my back door in the rain like some kind of miracle or warning. I still wasn't sure which. Something about his face was nagging at me. Not that I recognized him exactly, more like I recognized something about him, the way he held his jaw, the angle of his eyes when he looked up at me, familiar in a way I couldn't place. "What's your last name?" I asked. "Calloway." "Owen Calloway." "Calloway." I turned the name over. Nothing came. "What was your mother's name?" He looked up. "Why?" "Just asking." "Her name was Renata," he said. "Renata Calloway." The floor shifted under me, not literally, but that's what it felt like the linoleum tilted just slightly and then settled back. Renata. I knew that name. I knew it from years ago, from a summer that felt like another lifetime. Renata used to come into this diner. She was 19, 20, pretty girl. Dark eyes. She used to sit in the corner booth and wait for my son, Nathan. They dated one summer, maybe 2. She'd order black coffee and read while she waited. Never bothered anybody. I liked her. Nathan eventually stopped mentioning her, said it hadn't worked out. I assumed she'd moved on. I looked at this boy across my counter. 17 years old. Dark eyes. The set of his jaw. I needed to think. "Can you bust tables?" I asked. He blinked. Yeah, I can do that. You know how to run a dishwasher?" "My foster family had one. I figured it out. Come back at 6 tomorrow morning. We open at 6:30. I'll pay you $11.50 an hour under the table until I can sort out something more official. There's a storage room in the back. It's not much, but it's dry and there's a cot." He stared at me. "You don't know me." "I know enough." "Why would you do this?" I thought about it. "Because I need the help," I said, "and because you knocked on the right door." That was a lie, partly. I needed the help. That part was true. My regular dishwasher had quit 2 weeks earlier, but that wasn't why I said yes. I said yes because of the name Renata Calloway, because of that jaw, because something in my gut was telling me things I wasn't ready to say out loud yet. He showed up at 5:50 the next morning. I heard him before I saw him, moving around in the storage room trying not to make noise. I made him breakfast before the morning rush. He ate at the counter while I prepped the grill. He wasn't a big talker, which I respected. He watched how I did things without being asked, then did them the same way. By 9 o'clock he'd figured out the rhythm of the place without me explaining it. During a slow stretch before lunch, I found him reorganizing the dry storage. He'd pulled everything out and was putting it back in a way that made more sense. I hadn't asked him to. You don't have to do all that, I said. I know. He kept stacking. I just couldn't find the cornstarch this morning. Fair enough. He looked up. This is a nice place. Old but nice. 31 years, I said. Did you build it from scratch? My husband and I did. His name was Earl. We opened it when my son was 3 years old. Is your husband... He passed 8 years ago. He nodded. I'm sorry. How about your son? I paused. We're not on the best terms right now. He didn't ask more than that. Just went back to stacking cans. I stood there a moment longer than I needed to. I ordered a DNA kit online that night. Sat at my kitchen table looking at the website for a long time before I put in my credit card number. I felt foolish doing it. A woman my age, 67 years old, ordering ancestry tests because a boy showed up in the rain with his dead mother's name. There was probably a perfectly ordinary explanation. Renata was not an unusual name. The math could be wrong. 17 years didn't have to mean anything. But the jaw, the eyes, the way he tilted his head when he was thinking, exactly the way Nathan used to do. The kit arrived in 3 days. I waited another 2 before I brought it up. Owen was sweeping the back hall after closing when I came out with the boxes. I held mine up, got one of these ancestry kits. My daughter sent it for my birthday, but I never used it. You want to do yours too? See where your family came from? He leaned on the broom. I don't know much about my family. That's exactly why, I said. He was quiet for a moment. My mum never talked about her side, just said her family wasn't around. Maybe there's something in the database. You might have cousins you don't know about. He thought about it. Sure, he said. Okay, we did it at the counter after close. He was methodical about it. Read the instructions twice before he started. I watched him seal the tube, shake it, set it aside. What do they look for? He asked. Basically, your genetic markers. Then they match you against their database. See who else shares your DNA. What if nobody does? Then we know you're one of a kind, I said. He smiled a little. First real smile I'd seen. We mailed them together on my way in the next morning. The waiting was harder than I expected. I told myself it was probably nothing. I kept the thought at a low simmer, not letting it boil. Owen settled into the diner the way water settles into a crack, quietly, completely. By the end of his first week he knew every regular's name and how they took their coffee. Meredith in the corner wanted decaf but pretended it was regular, so we played along. Old George liked his eggs runny, but would send them back if you told him they looked runny, so you just called them soft. Owen figured both of these things out on his own inside of 4 days. He was sharp. Sharper than people gave him credit for, I could tell. Customers talked over him like he wasn't there, the way people talk around service workers. He didn't let it show, just kept moving, kept working. One evening, I found him in the storage room with one of my old cookbooks. He was reading it the way you'd read a novel, sitting on the cot with his legs crossed, turning pages. You like to cook? I asked. I don't know how. He turned another page. But I want to learn. What do you like to eat? Anything, honestly. He looked up. When I was on my own, I mostly ate from gas stations, so anything hot is good. That's a low bar, I know. I taught him how to make biscuits the next morning before we opened. He was careful about it, measured everything twice. His first batch came out a little flat, but he'd gotten the folding right, which is actually the harder part. You're a quick study, I told him. My mum taught me how to bake, he said. A little. Before she got sick, what happened? If you don't mind, she had lupus. He said it's straight, no fuss. It wasn't sudden. I had time to get used to it. What I wasn't ready for was how fast the medical bills added up. She had to sell almost everything at the end. That's why there wasn't anything left. How old were you? 16 when she was diagnosed. 17 when she passed. A year of watching your mother disappear. At 16. She was a good person, he said. Quieter now. She worked hard her whole life. She deserved better. I agree, I said. Even though I hadn't known her, I meant it. I thought about ninth known her. I meant it. I thought about ninth night. My son, 40 years old now. We hadn't spoken in 14 months, not since the conversation in my living room where he told me I was being stubborn and selfish, and I told him I didn't recognize who he'd become, and he walked out and didn't look back. The thing we'd fought about was this diner. He'd come to me with an investor, someone who wanted to turn Maze into a fast, casual concept, expand it into a franchise. Nathan had already drawn up papers. He just needed me to sign over majority ownership. I told him no. He told me I was holding on to the past. I told him the diner was all I had left of his father, and I wasn't interested in turning it into a chain. He said I was choosing a building over my own son. I said he was choosing money over his father's memory. He left, and he stayed gone. 3 weeks after we mailed the kits. The results came in on a Thursday. I saw the notification on my phone during the lunch rush. I set the phone face down on the counter and finished the service. I didn't want to read it while my hands were shaking. Owen cleared the last table at 2:15. I waited until my part-time server, Debbie, left for the day. Then I went to the computer behind the register and pulled up the site. Grandmother match, it said. Owen Calloway. I sat with that for a minute. 2 minutes. I printed the page. The printer was slow and I listened to it click and pull and feed the paper through, and I thought about Renata sitting in that corner booth all those years ago, about how she'd stopped coming in, how Nathan had shrugged when I asked about her, said she'd moved home, said it was fine. Owen was in the back mopping. I could hear the bucket wheels on the tile. Owen. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Can you come out here a minute? He appeared in the doorway with the mop handle. Yeah? The results came in. He set the mop against the wall, came over to the counter. I turned the printed page toward him. He read it. Once, then again. His face went through several things I recognized. Confusion first, then something else. Grandmother, he said. I have a son. His name is Nathan. He's 40. Owen looked up. 17 years ago, he was seeing a young woman named Renata. She used to come here to meet him. Then she stopped coming. He told me they broke up. That was the last I heard of her until you told me her name. He was very still. You're saying he's my father. That's what the science is telling me. But she said he was dead. That's what she always told me. My father died before I was born. I don't think he knew about you, but I intend to find out. He sat down on the stool at the counter, slow, like his legs had decided for him. He stared at the page. I might have a father. You do. Whether he deserves that title is a different question. He looked up at me. What does that mean? It means I love my son, but I don't always like who he is. And I'd rather tell you that now than let you find out later. He nodded slowly. Are you going to tell him? Yes. Today, if I can reach him. What if he doesn't want to meet me? I looked at this boy who'd been alone since he was 17, who'd aged out of a system that never really saw him, who'd ended up at my back door in the rain with everything he owned in a garbage bag. Then that's his loss, I said, and you still have me. He pressed his lips together, looked back at the paper. We're really related. We really are. He didn't cry. Not then. He just sat there with the paper in front of him and breathed. I went and made 2 cups of coffee and set one next to him and let him sit with it as long as he needed. I called Nathan from the apartment upstairs that evening. The phone rang 5 times. I almost hung up. "Mum," he said. He sounded surprised, not happy, not unhappy, just surprised. "Nathan, I need you to come to the diner." "Why?" "Because I found something out and you need to hear it in person." "I'm busy, Mum." "I know. Come anyway." A pause. "What's this about?" "Do you remember a girl named Renata Calloway?" Silence, longer than a pause. "Where did you hear that name?" "Nathan, come to the diner. Tomorrow after close. 3 o'clock. He came at 3:15. He looked the same as he always did. Expensive watch, the kind of shoes that cost more than my water bill. He glanced around the diner like he was estimating what it might sell for. Some things don't change. "Mum," a nod, not a hug. "Thanks for coming. Sit down." He sat. "What's going on? I want to tell you something, and I want you to really listen." He folded his hands on the table. "Okay, Renata Calloway had a son," I said. "He's 17 years old. His name is Owen. He showed up here 3 weeks ago, soaking wet, looking for work. I hired him." Nathan stared. "I got a DNA test, his and mine. He's my grandson." "Which makes him your son." "That's not possible." "It is. I have the results. I looked for the paperwork. I'd left it on the counter." Nathan picked it up, read it. I watched his eyes move across the page, the way Owen's had, but differently. Owen's face had opened. Nathan's closed. "How did you get this without my consent?" "I did my own test. Owen agreed to do his. Your DNA isn't in it, just mine and his." He set the page down. "Where is Renata?" "She passed away this past winter. Lupus." His jaw tightened. He looked at the table. "Did you know she was pregnant?" I asked. He was quiet long enough that I had my answer before he spoke. "She told me," he said finally. "When we were still together. I was 23. I wasn't ready. You told her you didn't want children. I told her I wasn't in a position to. Did you know she was pregnant when you broke up?" His silence was its own answer. "Nathan, I was 23, Mom. I panicked. You left a pregnant woman to raise your child alone. I wasn't thinking about, and now that child is 17 years old and has been on his own for 7 months because the only person who raised him is gone." He sat back. "I didn't know any of that. You could have. I didn't know she had him. I didn't know where she ended up. I didn't. You could have found out, if you'd wanted to." He pressed his fingers to the bridge of his nose. "What do you want from me? I want you to meet him. He's in the back right now." Nathan looked toward the kitchen door. "He's a good kid. He works hard. He's been through things you and I can't imagine. I'm not in a position to just suddenly, 'Here's your son.' Mom, Nathan, he's your son and he has no one. What position do you need to be in?" He was quiet. I waited. I was good at waiting. 31 years of running a diner teaches you that. "Let me meet him," he said finally. "Just meet him. I'm not promising anything. No promises needed. Just 10 minutes. I went to the back and told Owen. He stood up from the cot where he'd been reading, set his book down carefully. He straightened his shirt. The gesture broke something in me. This boy straightening his second-hand shirt to meet the man who'd left before he was born. He walked out into the diner. Nathan stood up from the booth. He looked at Owen, really looked. And whatever he saw, the jaw, the eyes, the angle of the face, I watched it land on him, watched him understand in his body what the test results had already said. "Owen," Nathan said. Owen nodded. He didn't say hi, didn't say sir, just nodded. They sat across from each other. I stayed behind the counter. I didn't hover, but I didn't leave. The conversation was awkward. Nathan asked questions that were too formal. Things like, "What are your plans and where did you go to school?" The way you talk to a stranger. Owen answered carefully, like he was trying not to want too much. But about 20 minutes in, Owen asked something I didn't expect. He said, "Did you love her?" Nathan went still. "My mum." "Did you love her?" Nathan looked at the table. "I think I did," he said slowly. "I was young. I didn't handle it well. She talked about you sometimes," Owen said. "Not often, but sometimes. She said she used to come to this diner and read while she waited for you. She said you used to bring her pie." Nathan's face changed. "Just a little. He used to bring her a slice of whatever was fresh. I remembered that. He'd carry it over like it was the whole world. Cherry," Nathan said quietly. "She liked cherry. She always bought the canned kind," Owen said, "even when she couldn't afford much else." They sat with that for a moment, two people sharing the memory of a woman who wasn't there anymore. Nathan looked up at me, then back at Owen. "I don't know how to do this," he said. "I won't pretend I do. But I'd like to try, if you're willing." Owen looked at him for a long time. His face was careful, neutral, the way a person looks when they've been disappointed enough times to be economical with their hope. "I'll think about it," Owen said. That was fair. That was exactly right, actually. Nathan left an hour later. He paused at the door, looked back, said, "I'll call." Then he was gone. Owen and I cleaned up the diner. He swept under the booths. I wiped down the counter. We didn't talk for a while. "Are you okay?" I finally asked. "I don't know yet." His voice was quiet. He seemed decent. He has his moments. "Do you trust him?" I thought about that. I trust that he showed up today. "Beyond that, I'm going to need to see more." Owen nodded. "That's fair." He swept a pile of crumbs into the dustpan, set the broom aside. "Can I ask you something? Anything? Why didn't you tell me right away, when you first figured out who I might be?" I looked at him, because I wasn't sure yet, and because I didn't want to give you something and then take it back. "You've had enough taken away." He stood there for a moment. Then he said, "My mum used to say that good things take a long time to grow, that you have to be patient with good things." "She was right," I said. He picked up the dustpan and carried it to the trash. I watched him and thought about the night he'd walked in through the back door in the rain, standing there dripping on my floor, holding that garbage bag like it was all he had in the world. Because it was. We moved his things upstairs the following week. My second bedroom hadn't been used as anything except storage for the last few years. I cleared it out, found sheets that still smelled like cedar from the closet, set up the old desk Earl had kept in there. "This is mine?" Owen asked, standing in the doorway. "All yours." He walked in slowly, ran his hand along the edge of the desk, looked out the window at the street below, the diner sign visible from the angle. "I can see the sign from here," he said. "That's the idea. You can make sure I'm running things right." He smiled. "I'll keep an eye on you." He enrolled in the GED program at the community center that fall. He went 3 evenings a week after his shift. I kept dinner in the oven for him on those nights. He'd come home tired and quiet, eat at the kitchen table, tell me 1 or 2 things about what he'd learned that day. He was good at math, better than he thought he was. His instructor told him that the second week, and he came home and repeated it to me like he wasn't sure whether to believe it. "Tell her to say it louder," I said, "so it sticks." He laughed. Nathan called that first week, then again the week after. Careful calls, not too long. He and Owen went for coffee twice in that first month. Owen came home from the second one, quieter than usual. I left him alone. He'd talk when he was ready. That night, late, I heard him in the kitchen. I came downstairs and found him making toast. "Couldn't sleep?" I asked. He shook his head. "Nathan asked me something tonight." I sat down at the table. "He wants to know if I'd consider going to college. Said he'd help pay for it." "What did you say?" I said I didn't know. He handed me a slice of toast, kept one for himself. He said he knows he's late. He said it a lot, actually, that he knows he's late. Maybe he means it, maybe. Owen sat across from me. "Do you think people can change?" I thought about Earl. who'd been impatient when he was young and learned to be gentle. I thought about myself, who'd been stubborn and was still working on it. I think some do, I said, not because they have to, because they want to. He chewed his toast. He seemed proud of me. When I told him about the GED, he should be. It felt weird. Good weird. But weird. That makes sense, I said. He finished his toast, went to bed. I sat at the kitchen table for a while longer. In the quiet of the kitchen Earl and I had eaten in for decades, thinking about how full a place can feel when you stop being the only one in it. He passed his GED in the spring. I made him a cake, yellow cake with chocolate frosting, because he'd mentioned once that his mother used to make it for birthdays. "You didn't have to do this," he said when he saw it. "Of course I did. You earned it." He stood there looking at the cake for a moment. Then he looked at me. "I don't think I've ever had someone make me a cake before. My mum tried once, but she was already sick and she burned it. Well, I've made a lot of cakes in my life." "Comes with the diner territory." He smiled, just a little. "Thank you, Grandma." First time he'd called me that. He said it shy, like he was trying it out. I didn't trust my voice for a second. "You're welcome," I said. "Now cut the cake before I cry into it." He cut the cake. Nathan showed up at the diner one afternoon in the summer. He came in through the front like a regular customer, sat at the counter, ordered coffee. We'd been talking more by then, short calls, occasional Sunday dinners at the apartment. It was slow going. We were rebuilding from almost nothing. He waited until Owen was in the back before he said anything to me. "I want to apologize," he said. "For which part?" He looked at me. "For all of it. For Owen. For the way I left things with you. For the diner." I refilled his cup. "I'm listening. I was wrong about the franchise idea. I was wrong to push you, and I was wrong to leave when you said no. What changed your mind?" He was quiet for a moment, spending time with Owen. He looked at the coffee cup. "He works harder than anyone I've ever hired. He's had nothing, and he's still." He stopped. "I gave up on you over a business deal." He was given up on before he existed. I needed to understand the difference. "There's hope for you yet," I said. He looked up. "You think so?" "I think it's possible," I said. "With effort." He nodded. "That's fair." He stayed for lunch. Had the meatloaf, which had been his father's recipe. I watched him eat it and thought about Earl, who would have liked Owen, who would have been at that back door before I was, offering the kid a meal and a job and not thinking twice about it. The following winter, Mays got written up in the county paper. Small piece. Local diner celebrates 32 years. There was a photo of me and Owen behind the counter, both of us in aprons. Owen was laughing at something I'd said right before the photographer clicked. The piece mentioned that my grandson had joined the staff and was studying at community college in the evenings. Owen brought the paper in from the porch and read it at the counter before we opened. "They spelled my name right," he said. "High bar." He set the paper down. "You know what's strange?" He looked at the photo. "This is the first time I've been in a newspaper. Ever." "How does it feel?" He thought about it. "Like something real happened." "It did," I said. He folded the paper carefully and set it under the counter on the shelf where I kept the important things. Old menus, Earl's original drawings of the sign, the lease from 1993. Nathan came to Christmas dinner that year, first time in almost 3 years. He brought a bottle of wine I didn't recognize and a box of chocolates, and he shook Owen's hand at the door and then seemed to reconsider and hugged him instead. Owen went still for half a second, then hugged him back. "It wasn't fixed. I'm not going to pretend it was fixed. There was too much ground to cover for one holiday dinner. But we sat at the table, the three of us, and we ate and we talked about ordinary things. And outside it was cold, and inside it was warm. And Earl's photo watched us from the mantel. After dinner, Owen helped me with the dishes. Nathan sat at the kitchen table and talked to us while we worked. He told a story about a business meeting that had gone wrong, and it was actually funny, and Owen laughed, and then Nathan laughed too, and the sound of it filled the kitchen. "This is okay, isn't it?" Owen said to me later. When Nathan had gone and we were putting the last of the leftovers away. "More than okay," I said. "I keep waiting for something to go wrong." "I know." I touched his shoulder. "That feeling goes away. Slowly, but it goes." He nodded, closed the refrigerator. "My mum would have liked it here," he said. "She used to talk about wanting a place like this. Steady, somewhere she could count on." "You can count on it?" I said. He looked at me. "I know." The months went on. Owen finished his first year of community college. He'd decided on business, which surprised me at first and then didn't. He had the mind for it. He'd started managing the diner's ordering and the schedule on a spreadsheet, and he'd cut our food waste by almost a third without anyone asking him to. He put the customer feedback cards in a folder and actually read them. He fixed 3 things that had been annoying regulars for years just by paying attention to what they said. "You're going to make a very good business owner someday," I told him. "Maybe I'll run this place," he said. "Someday. You might have to fight your father for it." Owen looked at me. "Nathan doesn't want it." "No," I said, "but it's good to remind him it's not his to take." He understood what I meant. He nodded. Something I hadn't expected happened the following spring. Nathan brought Owen on as an intern at his company. 2 days a week, part-time, real pay. He said he wanted Owen to see how things worked before he committed to a direction. Owen came home from his first week cautious, like he was carrying something breakable. "He's actually good at it," Owen said. "The work stuff. He knows what he's doing." "He does," I agreed. "I didn't think he would be." "Dumb, I know." "Not dumb. Careful." He ate the bowl of soup I'd left for him. "He keeps asking my opinion in meetings. Like it matters. It does matter. He's not just saying that. I don't think so. Why would he?" Owen thought about it. "I guess I keep expecting him to change his mind." "About wanting me around?" "I know you do." I said it gently. "He hasn't yet?" "No," he said. "He hasn't. There are moments I replay sometimes now." Owen walking in through the back door in the rain. His face when he read the DNA results. The way he said grandma for the first time like he was testing the word's weight. The sound of Nathan's laugh in my kitchen on Christmas. But the one I come back to most is smaller than any of those. It was a Tuesday in January. Slow morning, maybe 4 customers. Owen was behind the counter doing his homework between orders. He had a notebook open and a pencil in his hand, and he was frowning at something on the page. The specific frown of someone doing math they're almost sure of. A customer came in. Young woman, maybe 20, 25. She sat at the counter, and Owen closed his notebook and took her order and brought her coffee, and while she waited for her food, they talked. She'd just moved to the area. Didn't know many people yet. Owen told her about the library on 5th. About the farmers' market on Saturday mornings, about the church that did a free dinner on Thursdays if she ever needed it, no questions asked. He said it matter-of-factly, like it was common knowledge, like it was useful to know. The woman thanked him. He went back to his homework. I stood at the grill and watched and thought about who he'd been when he walked through my back door. What he'd carried and what he'd lost and what he'd managed to hold on to through all of it. My husband would have loved this, I thought. Earl would have loved this kid. After the lunch rush, I found Owen in the storage room, eating his break sandwich and reading one of the old cookbooks again. "You know you can borrow those," I said. "Take them upstairs." He looked up. I didn't want to presume. "Owen," I leaned against the doorframe. "You live here. You don't have to presume. You just take." He looked at the book in his hands. Then he looked at me. "I'm not used to that," he said. "I know. You'll get there." He nodded. Gilles nodded, set the cookbook on the shelf next to the cot, like he was making room for it. He was. If you're watching this story and thinking it sounds too good to be true, a homeless boy who walks in through the back door and turns out to be your grandson, I want to tell you that's the thing about life. It doesn't warn you when the important moments are coming. It doesn't clear its throat or knock twice. It just sends a boy through a door in the rain and asks whether you're going to say yes or no. I said yes. Everything else came from that. I'm 67 years old, and I've run this diner for 31 years, and I've learned that the people who change your life most completely are often the ones who needed a place to be. Owen needed a place to be. As it turned out, so did I. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had a stranger show up when you least expected it and turn out to be exactly who you needed? I'd love to hear your stories. And if you're not already subscribed to Never Too Mature, I hope you will. These stories are for all of us who know that the best chapters don't always come first. I've thought a lot about what I would have done if I hadn't unlocked that back door. If I'd heard the rain and stayed at the grill and let whoever was out there figure it out on their own, I could have done that. Most people would have, and Owen would have walked back out into the wet, and I never would have known his name, and the rest of it, all of it, never would have happened. That's the thing nobody tells you about the choices that matter most. They don't feel like choices in the moment. They feel like nothing. A door, a boy, a plate of eggs. You say yes or you say no and you move on. Only later do you understand what that moment actually was. I said yes because something in me recognized something in him before I could name it. And what I've learned, having now lived long enough to look back at a lot of my own decisions, is that we usually know more than we admit to ourselves. I knew the name Renata meant something. I knew that jaw. My gut was telling me a story my mind wasn't ready to hear yet. I chose to listen to it instead of talking myself out of it. That's not wisdom you're born with. That's something you build slowly from paying attention to your own life long enough to trust your own instincts. Nathan made different choices. He was 23, scared, and he chose the easy version of the story, the one where Renata left and it wasn't his problem, and he could move on without looking back. I understand that. I don't excuse it, but I understand it. The hard thing about integrity is that it costs you something right now for something you can't fully see yet. Nathan couldn't see Owen, couldn't see what he was giving up, so he gave it up, and he spent 17 years not knowing what the cost really was. And Renata, she raised that boy alone through illness and poverty, and she did it without bitterness, at least none that reached Owen. She gave him a love of reading, a work ethic, the ability to walk into a stranger's kitchen and not run. She gave him everything she had, which wasn't much in material terms and was everything in every other way. The character Owen carried into my diner was hers. She built it. That's what I think about when people talk about resilience, like it's something that grows in good conditions. It doesn't. It grows in difficulty. Owen had been tested in ways I'll never fully understand, and he came out of it decent and curious and hard-working. Not because the world was fair to him, because he decided somewhere in himself that who he was going to be was his to decide, not the world's. I couldn't give him back what was taken from him. I couldn't undo 17 years. What I could do was open the door, hand him a plate of food, and tell him the truth when the truth came in. What I could do was refuse to let his father's failure become Owen's ceiling. I'm 67 years old. I've been running this diner since I was 36. I've fed thousands of people across these counters, and I've learned that the most important meals are never the ones you plan. They're the ones where someone shows up hungry at the wrong hour, and you have something left on the grill, and you say, "Sit down." That's it. That's the whole thing. Owen straightened that second-hand shirt before he walked out to meet his father for the first time. I think about that gesture more than almost anything else in this whole story, because that's what integrity looks like when it's still young and unrecognized. You show up as well as you can with what you have. You don't wait to be told you're worth the effort. You just act like you are. And eventually the world starts to believe it too.